I reckon it's the day of reckoning as Mojo takes us through the good, the bad, the ugly of vulnerability and bridge. It really is not that scary. Actually, we're going to let Mojo just ease us into the good, the bad, and the ugly of vulnerability. Take it away, Mojo.
All right, we are here with Mojo from Pasadena Bridge Club. And I don't know if you guys remember, but he teased us last time on something called Vulnerable. So he's going to give us, I'm taking from the old spaghetti western, Clint Eastwood, the good, the bad, and the ugly about vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Well, okay, we've learned that winning 2 games makes a rubber. And the side that wins those 2 games gets a bonus at the end. It's either 500 points if it was 2-1, and it's 700 points if it was 2-0. Right? So a rubber, you could think of it as being 3 games. First side to win 2 games ends the rubber. They don't necessarily get all the points, but the other side might have amassed a whole bunch of penalty points for setting contracts. But having the 500 or 700 point bonus is pretty good. So winning 2 games is not a bad thing. So let's have some contracts. Let's say the first one is 3 no trump by West making 3. That's a pretty simple contract, pretty common contract. And the score for this is all below the line. It's 100 points. Remember, in no trump, the first trick over book is 40 points.
Oh, yeah.
The next one is 30, the next one is 30. So 40 plus 30 plus 30 is 100 points. Well, that's a game. All right, that's good. Now, East-West, them, the bad guys, you might say.
The bad.
They have won a game, and all they need to do is win one more game, and they get the rubber bonus. If they say their next hand was 4 spades by West making 4, they'd get 120 points for that, and they'd get the 700 point game bonus. We would be skunked. Now, let's say that we get the next hand, and we play 4 spades by South, and it makes 4. So that's 4 tricks over a book, 30 points each for spades. That's 120. Now, our side has won a game.
Oh, okay.
Now, whoever wins the next game ends the rubber and gets the 500 point bonus. We can't get the 700 point bonus anymore because right now it's 1-1.
Oh, it has to be 2-0 to actually get that. Okay.
Now, here's the thing. If a side has won a game, and in this case both sides have, that side is said to be vulnerable. Now let's talk about what that affects. I'm going to back up and erase these scores just for fun. I'll erase the second score. Let's say that on the second hand, instead of 4 spades by South making 4, that East-West plays the hand, and they go crazy and they bid 5 clubs by East, and it goes down 2.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. Now, normally the penalty for going down in a contract is 50 points a trick for the other side. That'd be 100 points for North-South. But when a side is vulnerable, meaning they won a game, that penalty becomes 100 points a trick.
Ooh.
So instead of getting 100, North-South gets 200 points for setting them.
Wow.
Okay. In this case, one side is vulnerable because they've won a game, East-West. The other side is not vulnerable. If they go down in a contract, let's say they play 3 diamonds by North down 1, well, the other side only gets 50 points.
Ah, okay.
Now let's say this side is vulnerable and they're doubled. Have we talked about doubles, or should we tease them?
No, tease them.
All right. If you're doubled, the penalties for going down are actually a lot more than double. And we'll save that for another time.
Okay.
But if you're vulnerable, it becomes a lot worse than if you're not vulnerable.
Now, do you get if you're vulnerable? Okay, so you get set if you're vulnerable, and you end up, instead of being 50 points for each trick that you lost by, it's 100 points.
Exactly.
Well, if you win, do you get extra points for winning?
Well, you might if you play and you win a game.
Oh, okay.
You'll get 700 at this point if you skunk the other side if they didn't win a game.
But you don't get like on that 3NW plus 3 that you had there where he got 100 points.
Right.
If they're vulnerable, did they get two? Did they get 200?
He's making 3. No, it's just another 100 points.
Oh, hey, that's the ugly for me.
Being vulnerable and making a game gets you the same points, but then you get the rubber bonus for winning the
okay.
rubber. So they'll get 700 points above the line because they won the rubber.
Okay. So that's the benefit there.
So vulnerability affects the penalties for going down, mostly.
Okay.
Now, later on when we start talking about Chicago scoring and duplicate scoring, the vulnerability does affect the bonuses for making a game contract.
Ooh.
And it's based on this. It's based on rubber bridge scoring. So you could say that if a side is vulnerable, they've got one game on the rubber, and it's possible for them to get the rubber bonus by winning a second game.
I see.
So that's the basics of vulnerability.
Okay. So that is the basics of vulnerability. What I would like you to do, because I know we talked about vulnerability, and there's something we've teased about in the past, and if we could slightly to go over what the difference would be, explaining to us what those slams are that we've been teasing about for like the last month, what they are, and how that you benefit as being vulnerable or not being vulnerable, or however you want to put it.
Slam contracts. Oh my goodness, slam scoring. Might have to look these up. Slams have bonuses of their own.
Oh, okay.
Let's say nobody's vulnerable, we're starting a new rubber. I just ripped the top sheet off the score pad and got a blank one here. And let's say the north-south bids 6 spades and makes 6. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The trick score, 30 times 6, that's 180. That goes below here. And of course, that's a game. So that's good. But then the bonus for making a game of a small slam,
Is it like
not vulnerable, I think it's 500.
500?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's not vulnerable, you get 500 points above. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I do it again. Let's 6 no trump by South making 6. Now it's no trump now, so it's 40 plus 30 plus 30. We get 190 here. Wow. Well, that's another game. But when you're vulnerable and you make 6, the bonus for that is 750. And then on top of that, we just won 2 games to none. That's another 700 for the rubber bonus.
Wow.
That's a pretty good total. That's a nice little.
That's a nice skunk.
That's a good skunk. So the slam bonuses are big. What if it's a contract of 7? A game of 7 no trump
How often does something like that
by
happen?
North making 7? What would that be?
Well, I'm curious, how often, Mojo, does something like...
They come up. If
Yeah?
you don't see them very often, you're not playing enough bridge.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay?
me.
Yeah. I mean, we had one in my class today. Well, the class is different. I couldn't set up the hand.
Yeah.
I see one every couple of weeks if I play a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's see. What would the bonuses be for this?
Is it like 1,000 or something?
If
Or?
you're not vulnerable, it's 1,000. If you are vulnerable, it's 1,500. So
Nice.
that's pretty nice, right? And then, of course, you get the trick score, which is 7 times 30, 210, plus 10, 220 points. So that's a good payday, too.
Wow, that's some major... That's some...
The slam bonuses are huge.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I was thinking, I was playing, I remember I did see someone actually do a small slam one time when I was playing online. And
Small slams will come up in an afternoon of bridge, 24, 25 hands. You'll usually see 2 or 3 small slams. So those are fairly common. Grand slams are a little bit more rare.
but they end up winning one game with that small slam we end up winning 2 games to win the rubber, but we lost.
You lost the point total because of the slam bonus.
It killed us.
Yeah.
It killed us.
That will happen.
Oh, wow. Because I remember you talking about that you can lose.
You can win the rubber and lose the game and lose the points.
Yeah, I like that. So that's good. Do you want to kind of do a quick summary just so people kind of remember it real quick?
Well, the idea is, of course, if a side wins a game, when a side wins a game, that side is said to be vulnerable. You start the rubber, nobody's vulnerable. When one side wins a game, that side's vulnerable. Now, if they win another game, that ends the rubber, and they get the bonus. You start over, nobody's vulnerable again. If both sides have won a game, both sides are vulnerable. And the upshot is that the bonuses for slams go up quite a bit. The penalties for going down double. They go up quite a bit, from 50 points a trick to 100 points a trick. And so when you're vulnerable, you're on the verge of winning the rubber, but the penalties for going down become a lot greater.
Oh, gotta be careful. Thank you, Mojo. That was fantastic.
That was fantastic. And now, just kind of go over a little bit here. Yeah, he said, hey, when East had basically won the first game, and here it is, the first game. Yeah, it's great in the sense if you win a second game, because then you'll get 700 points if you win 2 games to 0. And if you win 2 games to 1, you'll get 500 points. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. Now, as he said, there's kind of, what do you say, upshot, and we'll say now a downshot of becoming vulnerable is, let's say on their next, like Mojo showed on the next one, yeah, because the vulnerability kicks in. So on the next one, what happens is if they go ahead and do 5 clubs and they're down by 2 tricks, normally when you're not vulnerable, it's 50 points a trick for each trick that you are short. And that would mean this 2 times the 50 would give us 100 points. Okay? So that's what would be if you're not vulnerable. But when you get that vulnerability, yeah, you minus 2, you times that, and it equals 200 points. So that's kind of double your pleasure, or more like double your displeasure, I should say. And we go from the bad of getting penalized for vulnerability to the ugly of the reality of, oh my God, I just lost 200 points. Now, the upshot, as he put across, brings us to these slams that he was explaining to us. So these are pretty cool. I kind of like the way he went into this. So he showed us this first example, which is 6. Let's do a little reminder here. When someone does a 6-spade bid, okay, remember the first 6 tricks that you get are called book, okay? And we get absolutely nothing when we get these first 0 points, okay? The following 6, which means you need to get 12 tricks out of 13, okay? These 6 here, or actually it was plus 6, so we'll put that there. You times that by 30 because it's spades, and you get 180 points. Yay! So that's always kind of nice. And you get the game, but you do become vulnerable. Oh. Now, he had gone over another game here where they did 6 no trump, and now they're in the vulnerability stage. So, as we recall, the first trick over book is 40 points, and then the next odd tricks, as we call them, odd tricks, anything above book is called odd tricks, you get 30 points. So we go 30 times 5 is 150, plus the 40 for the first one gives us the 190. Yeah, I like that. And so we got to see that the first one, which was non-vulnerable, we got 500. And when we became vulnerable, we got 750 points. And in addition to that, we win the rubber, getting 700 points. Yay! Now, we went on to this one, and this was, we were using very similar examples just to make it easy. This is called a large slam. Some people call it the grand slam. And we got 7 tricks. Here it says +7. That gives you the clue. This +7. So 7 times the spades, which was a 30. So 7 times 30 gave us 210 points. And again, yeah, we are now vulnerable. Oh no, oh no. But the next one, we did +7. And this is no trump. And again, as we go, well, no trump, you get 40 for the first trick over book, which is called the odd trick. And then the other 6 tricks are 30. So we did the 6 times 30, giving us 180, plus the 40 for the first one, giving us 220 points. Yay, that was good. But the difference was this. On the very first one, when we were non-vulnerable, on the very first game, we got 700 or 1,000 points. Remember, these you actually had to win all 13 tricks, by the way. So 1,000 points you got for that. But after we became vulnerable on this one here, we get 1,500 points. So you're getting a 50% increase in bonus points. And then, of course, yeah, you win the rubber. So that's really pretty cool right there. Now, Mojo, on this point differential of zip to all these points, he calls it the skunk. And, he's just showing us, because this is a teaching moment. Normally, this would not be the reality of what happens. But, hey, let's just kind of go into just a quick summary here, as we did here. Yeah, so what we saw here is at one point, we won the game. So that was the good. But we became vulnerable. Oh, no. And when that happens, when we have that vulnerability, here were the 2 tricks that instead of being penalized 50, we were penalized by 100. And so it doubled. Double your pleasure or double your unpleasure, depending on which side you're on. East-West gave 200 points to North-South because they couldn't make their contract. And as we go over here, we got here, they made a game here, yeah, but when you do that, you too become vulnerable. But we showed that there's sometimes an upshot to becoming vulnerable, which we saw the first game here, they won 180 points, and they got 500 for their small slam. But in the second game here, okay, they got another 100. They got 190 points because that's the no trump. You get 40 for the first, and they got 750 point bonus because they were vulnerable. So that was pretty cool. And then of course they won the game 2-1, so they got their $700. Excuse me, I wish it was $700. That's 700 bonus points for winning the rubber. Yay! Okay, now we go on to this one. This was the large slam. Yeah, and that's where they became vulnerable. And they got 1,000 points for that large slam. But when they went ahead and got this no trump slam, they got 220 points. Again, 40 points for the first no trump trick. and 30 points for each additional. If we go 6 times 3, that's 180 plus 140. Ooh, our mathematicians, I don't know. It's a little confusing, but you got 220 points. You're basically getting 10 extra points when you do the no trump. Let's make it simple. But they did win the trump, so that's oh yeah, they won the rubber, and they got 1,500 points. So kind of when you're vulnerable, if you get set, the penalty is 100% more, and it gets ugly quick here. They got 200 points for that instead of getting the regular 100 points. Okay. And that's the down shot, and the upshot, the good part of the good, the bad, and the ugly, is that when you're non-vulnerable, you got 500 points, but you got 750 points for your small slam when you became vulnerable. Yeah, that was a good thing. And the same thing with this, which is they got 1,000 points when they were non-vulnerable for their grand slam, but they got 1,500 points for their vulnerability. Okay, well, let's go ahead and summarize a little bit of the good, the bad, the ugly vulnerability. Really, it's really just not that bad. There's sort of a double-edged sword that we have here. We have the bad and the ugly because you're getting penalized. You get penalized, that's the bad, and it can get ugly really quick because it's 100% more penalty for them setting your contract. But the good, yeah, sorry about the Morse code. Woo, that gets a little confusing. Let's kind of turn that off. Oh, I got dizzy. The good part is when you have bonuses, such as those slams, you get 50% more. That's some nice little good points there. And really, it just kind of comes down to this. You got to be a little cautious in your bidding. Okay, you got to be a little cautious in your bidding, but at the same time, aggressive. So that's where kind of we talk about double-edged sword in the sense you got the bad and the ugly, but the good part is you can have some great bonuses. So you kind of have to mix the cautiousness with the aggressiveness. I know that's easily said, but as we practice, it will become reality. So hey, thank you for viewing, and please stay tuned for our next vlog pods, whether they are long, short, or in between vlog pods. We will always attempt to bring some fun, meaningful content to you, and please, click the subscribe button and the like button on the way out. Enjoy. Have a great day.